Hello everybody, it's Dr. Steve, and today we're going to be doing something different, new and exciting. I hope you'll get some good benefit out of this. And there's a few reasons why I'm going to do these posture screencasts, basically case studies. They're kind of like virtual evaluations, and I want to just let you get inside my head as far as what I look at, what's important to me, what should be important to you, and how it all relates to crossed posture syndrome, upper cross posture, lower cross posture, core stability, and staying young and vital and youthful for as long as humanly possible so you can fulfill your function on this earth in a fun and exciting way. How about that? Okay? So let's get started. But before we do, quick disclaimer, this is all education. This is not me giving treatment recommendations. I am simply going to make observations and say what I would do in this situation. So look at this from an educational standpoint and look at what Daniel's dysfunctions, how they relate to what you have going on, and maybe something along the line here will help you out. Okay? Yes, I do have Daniel's permission to share this in case you were wondering. He sent me some photos and was interested in being able to sing better. Well, let's get into his history, okay? Let me see if I can get this rolling here. There we go. All right. So Daniel's 30 years old, struggling for years. 30 is pretty young to be struggling for years with pain in the mid and low back. He struggled with his breathing, lots of sleepless nights. So he's not sleeping well, not breathing well. That's not good. You need oxygen and you need sleep. He's tried many different treatments along the way with limited or without any results. Earlier in life athletics, he did sprinting and heavy weightlifting, and he never had the good technique coaching like most athletes. Most athletes don't get good biomechanical coaching. I never did when I was a 12-year-old pitcher. You know, it leads to disaster down the line, surgeries and whatnot. He wants to be able to sing better. It was one of his biggest goals is not so much about the pain, but he wants to be able to sing and hold a note better with his, I don't know where he sings or who he sings with, but he wants to be able to sing better. And he said, I found your website and I liked what I heard. Do you think your program can help me? Well, from the pictures that I've viewed and what you're going to see here, I definitely think this is right up his alley. So let's move on. This is Daniel. He doesn't look like an unhealthy, dysfunctional human being, but you know, it looks like he's got some good bulk, which a lot of people equate with health, but as we're going to see, that's not necessarily always the issue. So what are the things here with this photograph? He has a slightly elevated left shoulder, slightly. It's nitpicky, and he has obvious overactivity in both upper trapezius muscles. You can see these two muscles right there. Let me take the arrows back away, so you can see. You shouldn't really see a hard line there. It should be nice and soft and molding in. I can't see further up into his neck, but it should mold nicely into the neck in a nice curve. There shouldn't be any hard lines there. So definitely some what we call Gothic shoulders. And the palms, both of his palms are facing backwards, which means there's too much turning in at the shoulder joints. And this right here means that the shoulder joints are being overly internally rotated, and this is what the aging process does to us. And at 30 years old, we don't need internally rotated shoulders. So move on. We can see him from the back here. Again, he's got some good bulk and some good size, but again, too much overactivity of these big muscles. The latissimus dorsi, the thoracolumbar erectors. Well, there's the latissimus dorsi. This whole scene here is really big and overactive, probably making up for the lack of the deep serratus anterior muscles. There's his lumbar erectors, which are very overactive, I think, and you'll see why in the next picture, due to lack of mobility in the front of his hips. And his upper trapezius. Again, we saw that in the first photograph, and he's got a lot of overactivity there. So in this next slide, we see the profile view. Doesn't look quite as healthy and functional with this view because we couldn't see these curves on the front view. So it's always very important to look at both views whenever you're assessing posture. So what are the observations here? I would consider this a moderate to severe case of lower cross posture. Lower cross, remember, being tight hip flexors in the front, tight low back, weak abdominals, and weak glutes or external rotators of the hip. Cross of weakness, cross of tightness equals cross posture syndrome. Okay? So what are the observations here? What else do we have? We have tight overactive hip flexors, including the psoas, which is the shorter, bigger, more powerful muscle of the hip. It's what shortens when we sit down at a desk all day. So we get a lot of this happens just because we sit and look at computer screens all day long, or sit at a desk, or sit at a computer, or whatever. So this can tighten just by virtue of our daily posture. So we need to make sure we get up and stand up a lot more to offset all this tissue debt. The rectus femoris muscle, which is the central quadriceps muscle that goes from your hips across your knee and is also responsible for a lot of knee pain, is overactive here in lots of cases as well. Usually it's a combination of the two. Sometimes it's one more than the other, but the psoas and the rectus femoris are the two things that definitely need to be paid attention to for Daniel, and we'll go over what we can use to do that. So he has a forward tilted pelvis because of this. He's been being drawn forward, either because of the tightness here. Now, I'm not for sure if Daniel has this tightness. We haven't had any extensive conversations, but it can either be from extreme tightness here or flat out weakness of his ability to activate his abdominals correctly, activate his diaphragm correctly, and activate his deep external rotators of his hip correctly. So it could be just flat out an amnesia of how to activate this core system, or it could be a combination of the two. Who knows? But the coaching course will go over all of these things. It will teach you how to do, how to correct all these dysfunctions from many angles. Let's put it that way. Okay. What else we got here? Overused erectors. The erector spinae muscles, his thoracolumbar erectors, are very overdeveloped here, and this is because likely if he did lots of athletic things like sprinting, lifting, and things like that, if he can't get through his hips, like when he pushes off to get through his hips right here, if he can't extend through his hips correctly, he's going to use his back muscles to do all the work. And this looks like he's been using his thoracolumbar erectors a lot to do a lot of his heavy lifting, so to speak, and he's developed trigger points. He's developed a lot of strain and sprain in his joints in his back, especially the lumbar. I'll talk about these in a second. The lumbar facet joints get congested and slammed together, and that causes a lot of pain and dysfunction, and can increases the degenerative process. You get more arthritis. Anywhere where there's excessive stress, the body lays down calcium. Spurring, arthritis, degeneration. So we got to unload Daniel's back here. We have to. He has to get this unloaded. There he is again from a wider view. You can see that he's definitely got his hips are definitely tilted forward. So I would say he's also got some adductor tightness, some groin tightness on the inside. We can't see that, but that's something that just from experience it looks like he's got. So what are some observations here? Here we go. The global or the large muscles are overactive. We talked about that. The lats, the erectors. And this is likely because his deep core system has been deactivated for years, and or the tightness in the hip flexors. And we know he's got a moderate to severe case of lower cross posture syndrome. Lots of overuse in his back muscles. Now this causes lots of trigger points and pain. And this is really common. You know, you've heard maybe the statistic, over 80% of the people polled in the world or the United States have back pain, have had a case of back pain at some point in their life. And it's just this big mystery to so many people, and it's just a matter of getting the biomechanics right. It's not, the physical piece is not everything, but it's a huge piece. You know, if you're beating on something with a hammer every day and it's damaging the tissue, the best thing to do is quit beating it with the hammer. So you got to learn how to modify your movement patterns and things like that so you don't keep beating on your joints, taking the load off of them. Anyway, Lots of low back or facet joint overloading. I talked about that. He's cramming his joints together in his low back, and he's going to have a lot of degeneration and spurring and eventual encroachment on the nerves that go down his leg, and this is a nightmare in older years. And he likely incurred some tissue damage during his sporting activities when he was younger. This is stuff that's got to be remodeled. His tissue has to be kind of remodeled through good movement and reprogramming his nervous system to keep that movement good. So what are some focus points for Daniel? We got to unload his back muscles. We got to take care of his unloading his joints. We got to release his hip flexors. I think his hips are a big key piece here. Reawaken the deep core system. It's just been shut off because it's not been used for so long. It's obvious in the postural stance that it's not been used. And we also need to make sure we check his adductors and groin muscles to make sure they are not another big blockage that's not allowing his external rotation system of his hips to work. I'll talk about this in a second, but we're gonna, during your baby back position that you got in your free reverse CPS Now video series, this is a vital move, and we'll teach you how to. Daniel was having trouble doing this. Is the reason I bring this up. He was having trouble doing this because when he'd press his back down into the floor in the baby back position, it would hurt, and he couldn't do it effectively. Didn't feel like he could do it effectively. So we're going to show you how to bring the floor to you with a blanket or a pillow. What else? Use the image of keeping water from spilling forward out of your pelvic bowl. When you stand up, you want to imagine that your pelvis is filled with water all the way to the brim, and you want to make sure none of that water spills out. Let me just go back here real quick. You can see that Daniel's water would definitely be spilling out the front. And if the water spills out the front, so is the energy. The idea is this has to be level. The diaphragm has to be level. So your pelvic diaphragm and your abdominal diaphragm both have to be in perfect alignment. And actually, in yoga, they call this the third diaphragm in the neck. The neck position, the diaphragm, the abdominal diaphragm, and the pelvic diaphragm, all three need to be in perfect alignment so you can concentrate and let the energy move up and down through your body unimpeded. So that's just an important piece. So just by having the awareness or the intention of not letting, or the intention of keeping the water from spilling out the front, that will automatically help his nervous system start to retrain that important piece. Okay, so let's move back forward. Focus points. Use the image from out of the pelvic bowl. All right. So next is the suggested exercises. So we talked about the baby back position and bringing the floor to you. And this is also, like I said, in the Reverse CPS Now free program, which you can get at gettoyourcore.com. If you don't have this, you can get it at gettoyourcore.com. Click on my picture in the upper right corner and submit your name and email address, and you'll get this whole free series with a lot of these fundamentals. But anyway, the bringing the floor to you. What I would do here is put a folded towel or a nice thin pillow underneath the thoracolumbar junction, right there where the thoracic spine meets the lumbar spine, right at that transitional segment, and that's the back support zone. So then all you have to do is, when you anchor your ribs down and you put your support into that pillow or that blanket, you will have created the feeling of the back support zone that children get, that we all got as infants when we developed. And we've lost that along the way, so it's important to get that back. So it's a stepping stone towards being able to do a full baby back. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, the lunge, which I'm sure that he has been working on because it's in the free series that he has. Okay, that's the push-away lunge, and that's a very important exercise, and we'll talk more in depth about that during the coaching course, about the little nuances of what to focus on during the lunge and how to accomplish it more effectively. What else? Oh, there it is, the push-away lunge. This is the actual coaching site where the course will be held. And this is the push-away lunge where Rebecca and I go through it in depth. And the other thing that would help Daniel here is the full body anti-gravity, which is one of the other 25 or so exercises that are in this series or in this coaching course, or at least lay the foundation of the coaching course. There'll be a bunch more, but they lay the foundation of the coaching course. The being able to activate what I have my hands on here with Rebecca is the serratus anterior. This is the deep muscle that I think Daniel probably has become disassociated with because his lats have become so huge and overactive. His global muscles have become so overactive to make up for his lack of the deep core system.